everyone, and welcome down to episode number 11 of the Down South Photo Show with your host, me, Brendan Waits, and my good mate, Cameron Blake. Good evening, Cameron.
Afternoon, Brendan. How you going?
Yeah, not bad at all, thank you.
Number 11, that's pretty good.
11 episodes. Yeah. So we are now into double digits, and who knows where it's going to lead us, mate.
Hopefully in the triple digits.
Probably.
Maybe.
We're having too much fun. Why would we stop now?
Yeah, it's only triple digits is 2 years worth of recordings.
Well, there you go. It's certainly been keeping us entertained, and hopefully our listeners and viewers are finding it entertaining as well. Once again, thank you for everyone who is following us and subscribing and thumbing up and all that sort of stuff. It certainly helps. Read a couple of the reviews as well. Thank you. Mm-hmm. We like seeing the reviews because it helps bump up our visibility on the podcasts. Particularly on Apple Podcasts. I think if reviews are left, things get jacked up on lists and things like that. Cam, you know more about that than I do?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's like Google reviews. Like if you go to, camera and photo in Ocean Grove and you give it a rating, everyone else can see it. And any reviews are good. I like reading them. There's always a little bit of fun and games in there, a little bit of cheek, and some really nice comments as well, which I love. So if you're listening, it takes 2 seconds to do one. Quickly write a few words if you want. Give us a rating out of 5. Usually 5's pretty good. If you do a 1, we'll just delete it, so it doesn't matter. Give us
a rating. Give us a 1. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah,
give us anything. We don't mind.
Yeah,
we like honesty.
Yes.
Honesty, constructive feedback is good for us.
It's all about the attention, really. That's all we're after. We just want to stroke our egos. So even if it's a 1-star, stroke away.
Yeah, and so much so that I think I even introduced myself as the host.
Yeah, I think you might have.
That's the worst. I'm sorry.
Does that mean
joint host this thing.
Oh, well, I think you take the lead a lot better than I do.
No,
although
I roll up with the opener. That's all I do.
Well, I did the closer the other week, didn't I?
I know.
I walked away from the computer. Yeah, I walked down the street and someone knew me.
Wow. And we do this part for our listeners on the podcast most weeks. Where is your background tonight?
Yes, for people who can't see, my background is this is taken out at Lake Pedder. It's one of my favourite spots in Tassie. I don't think I've ever been out to this spot and come away with a shot I'm not happy with. So this shot behind us is actually looking at the Frankland range, not to be mistaken with the Franklin River. This is the Frankland range, so different type of spelling and range altogether, but it's just one of those typical Tassie sort of gnarly, sort of jaggedy, rocky type of mountain ranges, and the sun was just bursting through, and I was just lucky enough to have a camera ready to go. So How about yours? Yours looks like a fiery. Is that a sunset? I think it is.
So this was the sunset last night.
Oh right.
At the moment, here in southern Victoria, we're having some pretty big swells coming through, and I am literally minutes away from Port Phillip Heads, which is the main entrance into Port Phillip Bay, of course, where Melbourne is.
Is that where the boat goes through?
That's where the spirit of spew goes through sideways when Cam's on it.
Every time.
I'm telling you, one night I got it down there with my torch and flash you, so to speak. And this is the go-to for a lot of local landscape photographers when the swell's really pumping through the heads. So I ducked down there last night and I was doing some nice photos of some big waves coming through, and then turned around and had a nice little sunset. So if I move that way, you can see there's the lighthouse.
Oh, yeah, there's a lighthouse
and everything. There's actually quite a lot going on in that shot. So
you couldn't get a big gull sitting on the light post at the top there.
It would have blown off. It was that windy last night, so it was.
Just the legs.
That's right. It would have been just a feathers blowing off the post.
Yeah, that's nice. I like it.
I have a little story for us from that very location last night, which we'll get into tonight.
I haven't heard this story. You and I, both listeners, are going to hear this story firsthand. So I don't know what it.
Let's not build it up too much, but it was something interesting that happened to me last night while out taking photos.
Right.
But before we get to that, I want to say a very, very heartfelt and
I know where this is going.
Very, how can I put this? I was blown away during the week, figuratively and literally, by the gentleman on the screen now, because Mr. Cameron Blake organised me a Pentax K1000, folks.
How good is that?
Have a look at that.
It looks like it's brand new.
It is in very, very good condition. If I had to give it a rating, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10.
Perfect.
It's unreal. It's blown my mind. So at the end of last episode and the last couple of episodes, I've been harping on about my love affair with the Pentax K1000 because it was my first camera that I cut my teeth on, particularly with landscape photography. And Cam went and found himself one, or found me one, and bloody well had it sent to me. And I and as I said to him, it's one of the nicest things anyone's ever done for me. I'm really, really touched and chuffed to have a Pentax K1000 back in my arsenal. So thank you, mate. Thank you very much.
You are most welcome. And when I saw it, I've had a K1000, and I know exactly where you're coming from. I've got my Olympus OM3 Ti, which is my camera that I just love and just have to have. So when I saw that pop up on, I think it was Facebook Marketplace, I thought that'd be a nice surprise. And then last week you were harping on about it, and I'm like, I reckon you'll have one by next week. And I'm like, I'm thinking hopefully he doesn't get this other one before my one arrives. So, and I bought that one from a guy in Sydney who, thank you to the man or the gentleman up there in Sydney who probably broke a lot of laws and went out to the post office and put it in the Post Express post for us. So thank you to you.
He wouldn't have, because posting is an essential service.
Right,
so
okay. I'll take that back. Thanks anyway.
Yeah, well, and he did me a massive favour because, like everyone, it's been really shitty, and I'm allowed to use that word because our Premier Dan Andrews did in a press conference. I'm now allowed to use it apparently.
Go Dan.
And so just a little gesture like that has really lifted my spirits as well. So to you, Cam, and to the gentleman that sent me the camera, I'm, as I say, absolutely chuffed. One thing I do want to point out, that it also happens to have the 50mm f2 lens on the front, which is just buttery deliciousness.
Yes. Did it come with a second lens?
It did come with a second lens.
Yeah, I'm making sure.
Which I haven't even put on the camera yet.
That's right. But they're both Pentax lenses, I know that much.
Yeah, hang on. I've got the other... I'm going to dig it out. We've come this far, we might as well keep going.
Yeah. I'll try and fill it in while you're doing it.
Okay, yeah. A bit of hold music, Cam.
Yeah, maybe we could do...
Okay, yeah, it came with this lens as well, which is a 28 to 80.
28 to 80, yeah, beautiful.
28 to 80, yeah, and it looks in really good nick as well. So
Perfect.
Yep, absolutely chuffed. So
good stuff.
Awesome, yeah, absolutely wrapped with that. That was very, very cool. Yeah. So I will bang a roll of film through that really soon, and let you know how it goes. To be frank, I don't really care if it doesn't work. I'm stoked to have it.
I think if you do put a roll of film through, we can whack up some samples on our Facebook page after you've processed it, because no doubt you'll probably just use a C41 black and white, maybe.
I've got HP5 and XP2 film in stock, so I'll probably just use XP2 to test it out. Yeah, because that's cheaper and cheaper to get processed. So it'll put through C41.
Yeah, cool.
So, without any further ado, let's get into one of the main topics that we want to talk about tonight. And it's fresh in my mind, so this is why I decided we might talk about this tonight, and that is photographer's etiquette. So...
I reckon I just heard a collective from everyone out in the listening sphere there, where everyone's like, oh my God, where is this going to go?
Well, I like to think that I'm a half-decent sort of guy. I like to think I can stay pretty cool, calm and collected at the best of times.
Yeah.
However, last night when I was down photographing the big swell coming through at the Point Lonsdale jetty... Before
you go any further, do we need to get our lawyers involved with this story?
No, there'll be no names.
Okay, cool. Okay.
The person responsible may or may not be a listener, and to be perfectly honest at this point, I don't really care. But no, look, it was
149 subscribers.
That's right. Yeah, minus one. So I was on the very jetty that's in the picture behind me, and I was taking some shots. Now, when I got there to the location, I was there on my own, which, first of all, I was wrapped with. Like, I would have thought there would have been a lot more other photographers down there, given the sunset was awesome and the big swell coming through.
Yeah.
So I was there rattling off a few photos, and I got out on the jetty. And of course, when you look down that jetty and you can just see all the way through to the surf, it's fantastic, particularly when there's no people on it.
Yeah.
So I was like, right, this is a win. I'm going to get a great shot here. So I started taking a few photos. then I saw this other photographer who is known in the area and is a decent photographer, takes nice photos, been in the area for quite some time, local to Point Lonsdale as well, and also known as a serial get in the wayer of other photographer.
A photo bomber.
Absolute serial pest when it comes to photo bombing.
Or a comp stomper, as I like to call them.
A comp stomper. Love it.
Yeah.
Hashtag comp stomp.
They stomp on everyone's compositions.
Yeah, so look, so I saw him coming, and maybe because I saw him coming, my hackles went up straight away. And I thought, now's your chance, buddy. Now's your chance to do the right thing.
And prove you wrong. Yeah.
Correct. So he was on a hiding to nothing as far as I was concerned already. But anyway, he came down and he got beside me and he kept on walking. And he turned around to me and I didn't have a jumper on. It was quite cold.
Yeah.
And he said, "Gee, you're brave not wearing a jumper." Well, that was all the opening I needed. And I just said, "You're brave walking into my effing composition."
What a way to start a conversation.
And he sort of, I don't know, maybe I had a bit of a cheeky smile on my face. I'm not sure, but maybe my delivery wasn't, angry enough, because he sort of laughed it off and then kept on walking, and that made me even more angry. And so I might have then gone a little bit further and said, there are big waves tonight. I have seen one already wash over the end of the jetty.
Yeah.
I hope you get washed off. It'll make a great photo.
So you passively aggressively told him to go forth and go away.
Look, it really ticked me off because I was obviously set up taking my photo. Now, I didn't have my tripod. I couldn't have used my tripod. It was way too windy and way too rough and all that sort of stuff. But I had my camera bag at my feet. I had my SLR up to my eye. I was taking this composition that he just blew past me and walked straight into.
And does this person know you as a photographer down there?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Look, this person's been into my shop, been a customer of mine. I've done prints for him in the past, so he knew me and knew what I was doing. And look,
was a customer.
Look, ignorance maybe, and you can say, okay, well, he was just ignorant and didn't sort of wasn't paying attention, but he knew exactly what I was doing this time. And as I say, I've heard stories from other photographers that he's done it too. Yeah. And I thought, okay, this is my moment, and he lived up to his reputation. And it was really disappointing because after he walked out into the shot, some more big surf came through, and I definitely missed out on photos because he was in the bloody way. And it was really, really annoying. Yeah. And all it would have taken would have been for him to stop and say, just talk to me. Are you taking that shot? Yeah. How much longer do you need? And honestly, I probably only needed another 30 seconds. You know, and I would have been, yep, cool, mate, I'm done now. Off you go. Yeah. But no, it just, as I say, sort of blew on past me, and that little. I don't think that little exchange meant anything to him. I think it it didn't register. There's a lot of ignorance there, which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah, I think I hear you, and I think the etiquette of some photographers, and I think there's two sides to that story. I think some people just don't care, like flat out, just they couldn't give two shits about your composition, you enjoying the moment, whatever. That's them, and they're there for them. That's it. Then I think there's another side of people with photographers who get lost in the moment, or just get trained. Their train of thought is, I'm coming down to the jetty to do a shot. Oh, there's Brendan. G'day, mate. How you going? But I'm here for a reason. It's just maybe subconsciously they're not even thinking about what's going on. But you're right, photography and photographers' etiquette. I've got three. Now you've raised it up. I can feel my blood boiling with a couple of things I've done. But people that I do workshops with, that's something that we do talk about in workshops. It's like, okay, guys, spread out, give yourself some room. If Joe Blow is over there doing a photo of there, then that's their spot. Let them have that moment. If they walk away from that spot and you like it, then you can go fill the gap when they're leaving. Just be mindful of not getting in front of people. And I got a couple of stories where I went to Yosemite National Park in America.
Oh, wow.
It was my holy grail of places to go. Ansel Adams, studied about him, went to the gallery there, and I had to get that classic tunnel view shot where you're looking straight down the valley with the waterfall and everything there. And you come out of this big tunnel and there's a car park at the end and there's that view. So pretty excited. Got my tripod set up. There was a few photographers around, but it wasn't bumper to bumper. So everyone had a bit of space. And this, I'll refer to him as a knob jockey because that's the most relevant way I can explain this.
We're loose on the language tonight. This is going to get a PG rating, this one.
This might be. But this is in America. This guy is never going to be listening to us because I don't think he would. He rocks up in full camouflage outfit. So there's the first indication of what I'm dealing with. And then he rocks up, and I was using the Olympus system, so a fairly small tripod, set up, rock wall, perfect there. He sets up with this huge tripod with this huge 400mm Canon wrapped in camouflage, colouring, the whole lot. And he proceeds to put his tripod leg straight across the front of my lens, in front of my lens. And I just looked at him and I said, and being in America, didn't want to get shot, dressed in camo, probably had explosives or something like that, I'm not too sure. And I just looked at him and I'm like, oh, sorry, I'll just move over. And he just sort of looked at me. And then he proceeded to take about 1,000 shots in about 10 seconds, just scanning the whole frame. So I think what he was doing is focus stacking, just doing a heap of stacking with things. And I sort of got a bit cheeky and I said, you're doing some focus stacking. And he said something along the lines like, well, that's the only way you can get it sharp from front to back. I said, or you could just use your aperture or something like that. I said something smart like that. And he looked at me.
Something smart. Camera.
I know. It was an off day. And he looked at me and like he was there for 5 seconds and off he went. But I'm like, really? Like, and there was space everywhere. He just decided that I had prime spot apparently. So
yeah, look, there's nothing more frustrating, particularly, a spot like that. And I'm a fan of first come, first served. I think if you've done the hard yards and got there early enough and set up in your spot, then that's your spot.
Yeah, and I think you're right there as well. But I think it's a first serve thing. I think it's just pure respect. And the other story I had quickly with that one, it's funny. I've actually had a bit of a fun day on social media today. Someone got helicoptered out of Cradle Mountain in snow the other day, and everyone's up there saying we shouldn't be going up there. You're inexperienced. You're blah 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 blah. Anyway. So I got on there and started defending a few things because, if you're prepared and you know the outback or you're hiking and you've got the right gear and you're safe about it, you can go most places. But I planned a shot, which was on one of the earlier episodes. It was a snowy Cradle Mountain little lake shot with the little mountain in the background. And I planned that shot for about 5 years. I'm like, I'll wait for the blizzard sort of day. I want to get up there. This is the kind of shot I want. And I remember it took me, usually in the dry, it takes you an hour to get there from the car park at Cradle Mountain. This took like 2.5 hours in knee-high snow, the whole thing. Anyway, I get up there and I'm like, this is incredible. I got my camera set up. I'm like, this is beautiful. I had one of those moments where I just turned the camera off and just looked because it was that nice. And I'm standing there and I'm like, where are those voices coming from? Like, there can't be people here. And from the southern end of the park, people can walk up in winter. So here's a group of 3 guys walking up along the track out of nowhere, like literally looked like yetis coming out of the snow sort of thing. And I'm like, oh, okay, well there goes my shot. They're all going to stop and do it. And they all had camera bags around their neck and stuff. And this actually hit me straight to the heartstring. This one so they came up there and they said, oh, what are you doing up here? And I said, oh, I'm just trying to get this shot. And I thought I'd do the right thing. I'm like, guys, take a shot. This is a beautiful. And the 3 of them all in a row said, nah, you've made the effort. We'll keep moving, mate. Enjoy it. Congratulations. And they moved on. And like straight away, I started welling up. I'm like, you know what? That's really nice of you guys to do it. They've walked 5 days through hell. One of them had done his knee, and anyway, I caught up to him on the way back down. The guy at the back, his knee was getting a bit sore, so I actually took a bit of his load off and had a bit of a chat. We ended up going back to the pub, had a pint together. They told me about their trip, showed them the shot on the camera, and I said thanks for letting me get that shot. But they're the kind of moments that you expect as a photographer. That if someone puts the effort in. Don't go that cheap shot. The other one that's really crappy is when you're at a location, and I've had it at Cradle Mountain. I've got my tripod set up, and a tourist will literally come with their phone, put it in front of my camera, and go and take a photo, and just walk off. I'm like, really? So
helping themselves to a free composition.
Yeah, there's definitely etiquette, and it's a shame that, like I said, either one of those 2 people whether or not they mean it or not. It's a shame that they don't just take a second to see what else is going on around the environment and respect it.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, I can't even believe we have to say it, but that's the takeaway, right? That just talk to, if there's another photographer who's beaten you to the composition you were wanting to get, I'm sure that if you were polite, g'day, how you going? Have a bit of a chat. Oh yeah, cool. Look, I've been trying to actually get this photo for quite some time. You know, would you mind if I, just ask? Yeah. Hey, they might say no, and that's fine too, because if they're there first, that's fine too. But more than likely, they're going to say yes. So, as I say, it really frustrates you when people don't communicate with you and don't talk to you, and they've got every right to be there as much as you have, sure. But if you, as I say, if you're there first in, best dressed. I think it's just common courtesy as well. Down here, I think we might have touched on this similar sort of topic a few episodes ago. The competitiveness between photographers as well, and especially down here in Tasmania, like we've got some incredible landscape photographers who live down here. Some well known, some who just do it as a hobby but do amazing work. And there's a forever competition between some of these people down here to get the better shot or go that little bit further, or go and get this or get that. It doesn't have to be like that. Everyone, there's enough room in the world for everyone to get nice shots. And if you do find a photo that you like, it's funny that we talk about this photo behind me. I've got another similar shot that's a bit further around with an inlet, and I think it's the one I said was my favourite photo I've ever taken back a few episodes ago. And I've seen in the last month or two about 6 or 7 different photographers and hobbyists all go out and take that same shot. And like it's actually a shot you got to look for. You got to use quite a long telephoto lens, and at first I'm like, oh, that's sort of my sort of spot there, but then after 2 seconds, I'm like, but that's so cool that people think it's a nice enough spot to go and take the same shot. Or so there's ways to be genuine, and there's ways to use etiquette, and just being an a-hole and walking in someone's composition when they're there doing it. It's either shows that you've got really no decency about you, or you're just in a world of your own, and either one of those. Yeah, for sure. And when it comes to what you were talking about there, about the competitiveness amongst photographers, there's a healthy competitiveness around the Bellarine Peninsula and the Surf Coast, I think. I think there's room for everyone. There's no question about that. We've got probably, and I won't name them, but we've got probably 5 or 6 excellent photographers on the Bellarine, and we somehow have all managed, I think, to develop our own style as well. So much so that a photo will get posted on social media and I'll pretty much know who took it straight away. It's either the color palette or the way it's focused or the way it's comped and that sort of stuff. So and they sell their work, and I'm happy to say I print for a couple of them as well, so it's a win-win for me. But that kind of healthy competition and healthy respect for each other is great. And to the point where if someone's looking for a certain photo and I know I don't have it in my catalogue, I know blah blah blah, they've got it, you can go over and see them, they'll look after you. So I think as well with the competition, I think it's only natural that everyone has a competitive sort of bone in their body of some sort, whether or not they're aggressive about it or just a healthy competition. But I found that for a while down here, I'll be honest, when I moved down here in Tassie, I found that if you did something nice or got some good work, you sort of got cut down really quick down here, I felt. And that might have been just my perception of it all, but that's sort of how it sort of felt. And I used to get a little bit discouraged by that. I'm like, oh, well, I won't do this or I won't do that. But now what I do, if I see like I said, we've got a fairly competitive streak down here with people taking photos, but I use it as motivation now. Like if someone goes out and gets a great shot, I'm like, that's an awesome shot. How can I better that, or how can I learn from the shot that they've done that might improve my work and get a shot that works for me in my style, like you said. You don't have to go and copy the same photo, but sometimes it's a bit of editing style or, but I mean, when you talk about copying photos, I mean, you can almost literally copy the composition, but the clouds are going to be different. In my case, the surf's going to be different. The snow cover's going to be different for you, and it all does have subtle differences about it. The processing is going to be different. So that's why I say it's a free for all. It has to be. I mean, you're in the public domain anyway. You're in public space. I mean, you can't that guy that interrupted me at Lonsdale, he doesn't own that jetty. I can be there and I can take those photos as much as he can. So, I think that's got to be sort of looked beyond that sort of stuff and just say, everyone's out here hopefully enjoying themselves and getting some great photos along the way.
Well, here's a quick one for you in regards to copying, whatever you want to call it. I floated an idea a couple of years ago about doing like a bit of a tribute to Peter Dombrovskis and his work down here in Tassie, and I was looking at sort of involving some of the more well-known landscape photographers of our time now in Tasmania to go out and not copy, but sort of recreate or go visit the same spots that Peter visited and do our own take on the shots that we saw there. And I had an email from, I won't tell you who it was, but I had an email from someone down in Tassie, not necessarily a photographer, but someone that was pretty well known, who actually made a point that I would be breaching some sort of copyright of copying Peter Dombrovskis' compositions if I went out there and did the exact same thing and then tried to sell it. And it sort of started a really quite interesting conversation about, as much as Peter was a legend of the game, he doesn't own Cradle Mountain, or he doesn't own the Western Arthurs or Franklin River, or whatever it might be. He doesn't own those spots. So what's to stop anyone going along, doing their own take on it and selling it? So it was quite an interesting conversation. But that's sort of just in line with what you're saying about sort of, you don't own the jetty or whatever. But it's interesting.
I actually think that's a ridiculous point because, like you said before, Yosemite, Ansel Adams stood there and took that photo. What? So Ansel Adams' estate's going to sue you now because you're selling photos of Yosemite?
Yeah, that's right.
It doesn't add up. And Ayers Rock, Uluru, the Summer Apostles, all these places we've all got photos of. It's a silly argument to say that you're ripping off another photographer just because they've taken a photo of that particular spot, and they may have even made it famous, but that doesn't stop anyone from going there and taking the same photo.
No, I gather that example was more of a protective thing. I think someone was worried that legacy or tradition was going to be trashed, or especially down here in Tassie, people get a lot of their noses out of joint for going and trashing places, or making pilgrimage to Lake Oberon and the Western Arthurs. People don't want to see these places trashed with tourists, which I agree, and to a certain point. But I think it's an interesting topic. But etiquette, it's got to be it's really got to be in your toolkit. Really, it's got to be part of your gear.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. So, interesting. We'll probably open a bit of a can of worms in the comments, but if you've had
some subscribers,
this guy that doesn't. No, I won't. Oh, that's enough. All right.
We don't know anything about him.
We'll let it go now, Brendan. You've vented. You've got it out of your system. This is cathartic. This is good for me.
It was only yesterday, so it's relevant. So not
true.
Like me from 7 years. I'm digging stuff up from 7 years ago.
This is literally 27 hours ago. This happened to me. So
I reckon quickly before we move on from this topic, I reckon we've got maybe a listener who comp stomped a group of people on the Franklin River that I went down with once. We got to that classic Rock Island Bend shot, that one that Peter Dombrovskis made.
Yes.
And we all got out of the boat, and there was quite a lot of tears from this group because they were all people that never thought they'd see this moment in their life for going down to Franklin and standing where Peter Dombrovskis stood. And this one customer of ours, he's a lovely guy and super duper photographer, really nice guy. And straight away, the excitement just got in. And he set his tripod up on the biggest rock right in front of everyone else. And we're all sitting there with our cameras going, God, you're not going to be that guy, are you?
Yeah.
And anyway, I think a few of us yelled out, get out the bloody way, get off the rock. And he, oh, shit, sorry. And off he went. But it was just one of those classic moments.
No, that's a good story. So
that is a good story, yeah.
If you've had a fun little story, leave it in the comments below. It's always interesting to read other people's experience on this sort of subject matter.
And if we've comp stomped you, either of us, let us know.
Yeah,
put a story.
And,
if we've ruined your shot somewhere, let us know.
And I'll leave you with this. I was once comp stomped. I love that saying. I like saying it. I was once comp stomped by Ken Duncan.
That bastard. How could he? Right.
That's all I'm saying about that.
Really?
It happened. Now
it wasn't a kangaroo shot, was it?
Oh God, no! That would have.
Now, Before we move on,
that would have led to jail time for me.
For people playing at home who can't see this, I'd just like to do a bit of a shout out to the Whittlesea Photography Club, who I did a bit of a talk to last week or the week before. I received your package in the mail today of the coffee cup, and they actually lived up to their word. They actually sent the cleaning cloth straight away.
Wow.
And
did I set that precedent or what? Cleaning cloths are the thing now, apparently.
Yeah, and some nice chocolate as well. So thank you guys from the Whittlesea Photography Club. Sort of in my old backyard, really, in a way. But yeah, thank you. So nice now I've got a coffee cup. Perfect.
Well, I was telling you off air, whenever I do talks at camera clubs and stuff, I normally get wine.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
There you go.
I don't drink wine, but thank you.
Yeah. Wine,
my wife does.
I've got bottles everywhere of wine. I don't touch it. So.
Right. Nice. Okay.
Right. Okay. So you got that out of your system.
Done.
Let's talk about something nice.
All right. What are we talking about next, Cameron?
Well, I think the running sheet has you wanting the new toy. We spoke about last week that you're looking for a new camera.
I am on the. I have done well. See, being I run a camera shop essentially, so I'm forever brushing up on my research. And when new products drop, I read up on them. I watch the YouTube clips. I watch the product launches, all that sort of stuff. So I feel like I don't really need to do a heap of research. What I do like doing though is talking to other photographers who own that particular gear. So that's always a plus if I can get that kind of feedback from people in the field. So there is, I am, and I'm not making this up, I am actually torn between, 3 systems, believe it or not.
Can I try and guess what 3 systems they are?
I don't know. There's only 3 systems left on the market nowadays, isn't there? I'll give you a clue. One of them's not Pentax.
No, I don't think it's a Pentax. I think you're torn between Sony, Olympus, and Fuji.
2 out of 3 ain't bad.
All right.
Yeah.
Olympus is not the one.
I am tossing up between Olympus.
Yep.
Sony.
Yep.
And Canon.
The R3s or R5s, whatever they're called.
I am looking at the R5, R6 range.
Yes.
The reason for that is because I've got a couple of legacy lenses. Yes, I know you need an adapter for the new R setup, but they are Canon mount lenses, which will autofocus quicker with the R system. So there's that. There's the Sony that I'm... look, probably right now, if someone held a gun to my head and said choose, I would choose the Sony.
The dude from the Jetty might be there tomorrow putting a gun to you.
He might be. So I would probably go down the path of Sony. And the reason for that is I have sold the Sonys a lot, and the feedback I get from Sony users is always very, very good. There are a couple of issues, though, one of which would have helped me last night out in the wind and rain and big surf, and that's weather sealing. So, I have done what I highly recommend you do if you're looking for a new camera, and that is make a checklist. What's important to you with this gear? Now, for me, being a middle-aged man with decent-sized hands, excuse me, I think that's where the Olympus falls down a little bit for me, because I find them actually quite small, which I get if I'm traveling a lot, or if I was a bit smaller, or if I was backpacking a lot and that sort of stuff. Then I would probably start leaning more towards the Olympus, and not for the body size, for their lens size. Their lenses are compact. The 4/3 micro 4/3 system is small. See,
I think that's where, I get asked this all the time. What camera should I get? What should I do? And to me, being an Olympus user, if the weight is an issue for you, if you think to yourself, geez, I got this Canon, this Nikon already, and geez, it's just too heavy and too bulky, then even if you go mirrorless Canon or Nikon, or Sony for that matter, you're still using full frame lenses. Yes. So the majority of your weight in your camera kit comes out of the glass that's sticking on the front of the camera. Which is why I say to people, look, if you want full frame and you want to use your old lenses, or whatever, then you'll go Nikon, Canon, or Sony. But if you want something that is a small compact system with high quality, that's where the Olympus sort of pops up for people, because you're using micro 4/3 lenses, which are a fraction of the size. And yeah, so yeah, if the Sonys are fantastic, but you'll have big weight on the front.
Before we get any emails and inundated with people from Panasonic users, Panasonic is the same. So Panasonic uses the Micro Four Thirds mount, which was developed in conjunction with Olympus, and they actually, Panasonic, under the Leica branding, have produced some cracking little lenses.
They do. Yeah.
Their 20mm f1.7 is still a lens that I have in my kit, and man, I love that lens. That's a ripping little setup.
Yeah, I would say, that to me, when you're crunching numbers and facts and stats and stuff, when it comes down to everything, to me it's the weight. That's to me is the major difference. Yes, full frame sensor versus crop sensor. That's like we've spoken about that before about viewing distances and stuff like that.
Yep.
But it comes down to weight. You'll have a 2 kilo system versus a 1 kilo system to carry around every day. That means another extra lens in your kit.
Yeah.
So,
which again comes back to the old horses for courses. When 9 times out of 10 when I go and shoot, my camera bag goes in the car. When you go on a shoot, your camera bag goes on your back. And quite often you're going to be hiking 5k, 10k in to get a shot. Whereas for where I'm based, I would rarely need to walk that far to get to all the main areas for landscape photography where I live. If I'm traveling, that of course changes the whole equation.
Yeah, well, I've got this Fuji as well. So this is the Fuji GX100S. So absolutely amazing camera, medium format size thing, but it is huge. It's a big camera, and the lenses are massive on it as well. And I find myself, it's a car camera, or it's a 1 kilometer from the car camera, unless I'm going somewhere really, really special where I want to get that highest detail I can out of the shot. That generally doesn't go far from the car. That's where the Olympus system for me works really well. It's just like you said, I can just beat it up and take it hiking wherever I need to go. So horses for courses, exactly. You're
only going to take your Fuji on the overland track if someone else carries it.
Well, no. I had the original, the GFX 50. I took it down the Franklin River in a Pelican case, and I didn't have to carry it though. The boat did all the work.
Yeah, that's right.
I have taken it on the overland track, but I've only taken one lens, so it restricts your weight. Just becomes too much. Like as a comparison, like for the Fuji or the Olympus smaller systems, I can take a body and 3 good lenses with me, and be at about 2.5 kilos, maybe tops for hiking. If I took my Fuji or if I took a Canon or a Sony for the same equivalent lenses, I'd be up to almost 4 kilos. So that's a big difference in weight when you're walking, any more than half hour, an hour. So, that's like I said, horses for courses, and you got to buy what suits the sort of style of photography and where you're going. And
so what's the saying from that old El Paso ad? Why can't we just have both?
Both. Well, maybe one day we can.
One thing I will say about the Olympus system, and I've been a fanboy of Olympus for many, many years, and I've owned a lot of their cameras, particularly the Micro Four Thirds gear. It's very well priced as well. So when I say flippantly, why can't I just have both? Well, there's money involved, obviously. I can't just, I'm not going to go out and spend 20 grand on 2 different systems. But
I don't know who'd do that.
If push came to shove, though, and let's say all of a sudden out of the blue we could all travel again, and I come down to Tassie, well, that's when I'm going to want to probably carry my smaller gear. So and again, it's the lenses, it's not the bodies. The Sony, for example, the Sony A7 III. And the Olympus OMD EM5 Mark II, pretty much exactly the same size. But the Sony gives you full frame, the Olympus doesn't. The weather sealing on the Olympus is way better. Better.
I've seen the EM1 Mark II go in a pond at Cradle Mountain for 20 minutes, and it pulled out, kept working. They are literally waterproof.
Yeah, they're excellent for weather sealing.
I throw it back to you then. If the weight is not an issue, and the lenses are comparable in quality, you wouldn't say Sony lenses are sharper than Olympus or Fuji. They're all comparative, is it coming back pure to the full frame that you're...
Yeah. That's definitely at the forefront of mind now, and that purely comes back to experience from, as I say, talking to other photographers, but also printing their work as well.
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say, and I always use this analogy when people come into my shop and say, right, I'm looking at 5 different cameras, which one should I buy?
Yeah.
If I took the same photo 5 times on 5 different cameras with comparable lenses and focal lengths, blah, 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 and printed those 5 photos off and put them in front of you and said, okay, you tell me which camera shot which photo, you are guessing. Yep. You can't. The manufacturers of those cameras can't tell you.
So the difference between the Sony body and the Olympus body is about what, $1,200, $1,500?
Depending on which model I went for, yeah. So if we're comparing the A7 III,
is a full frame worth $1,500 more?
Yes, in my opinion. In my opinion, it is because of the results that I'm seeing in particularly when it comes to detailed shots. So I want a good all-rounder, right? So yes, I'm a landscape photographer first and foremost, but I do quite often go out on, for example, corporate jobs, or I do the occasional headshots and that sort of stuff. But I would have thought for that kind of stuff, a more versatile setup, absolutely worth spending the extra money. Okay. Bear in mind, big asterisks, bear in mind, I'm a professional photographer. They're the tools of my trade. I'm not saying that everyone needs to go down that path, because the vast majority of our listeners and viewers are not professional photographers. So that leaves, all the APS-C cameras and the Micro Four Thirds cameras well and truly in the frame. But for me, and I know I'm coming off like I've already made my mind up. I haven't made my mind up at all. The other thing is, with the Sony system, there's going to be a learning curve for me. I've never shot Sony. I don't shoot Sony. So I know the Olympus menu system inside out. I know the Canon menu system and the Nikon menu systems inside out. Never shot Sony. So, am I prepared to, maybe miss out on a few shots while I'm learning the new system? Because that's going to be an important factor as well. So I've got to weigh it all up. But at the moment, sensor size is nudging Sony ahead in my mind.
So when we talk sensor size, so you're thinking that full frame allows you, predominantly as a landscape photographer, to blow them up bigger with better detail?
Yep.
Okay. So my suggestion to you, as being an Olympus user, and yes, I'm an Olympus fanboy, but I own a Fuji, I own a Leica, I own Olympus, I own a Hasselblad, I own lots of different stupid cameras that I barely use. But I put it to you to go and try using the high res mode on the Olympus sensors as well, because you can shoot an equivalent of an 80 megapixel file and it works brilliantly for landscape photography. It doesn't work for sports photography or headshots or any of that kind of jazz. But for landscapes, I challenge you to go and have a look at it and try it out one night and compare it to a file, because it's very impressive. And I thought it was a gimmick. I thought, I'm not going to use that, but I do. And it works pretty well. But again, it just comes back to that sensor size. That's what every argument really narrows down to when you're buying a camera. Do you want full frame, or do you want a smaller sensor?
Let me tell you another big downside to full frame cameras, and that's file size. They pump out gigantic files. Which
this Fuji does 200 megapixel files. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. So if you're pumping out 200 meg files, and you've got to edit, you go on a shoot and you've got 1,000 of them.
That's right.
All of a sudden you're going to need some serious computing power. Again,
and do you know how good those 200 megabyte files look on Facebook though? Fantastic.
Absolutely. on your 7-inch iPhone screen. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, they sharp as.
You make a very good point, Cameron.
Yes,
we could go on about this forever and a day, but it's an open-ended thing for me at the moment. I'm in no hurry. I don't have to buy anything tomorrow, but I think it's a good ongoing conversation, and sort of a bit of a thread that will run through the podcast as we go on. Because
so as we leave this topic, you would say, you've said it's between Sony, Olympus, and Canon.
Yes,
with the Sony probably a nose in front at the moment.
At the moment, it goes Sony, Olympus, Canon.
Okay, all right, cool.
Yeah. So and don't be surprised if I end up with 2 outfits, because I'm like that.
Well, it's not silly. And like when you're saying quickly about how much money you spend on stuff. Like I've got my Olympus kit. I'm lucky in a way. I'm semi-supported by Olympus. I've got a bag of their gear that they've given me to showcase and try and teach people how to use. So I've got access to a lot of their lenses, which is great. But then I've also got my Fuji system, which is my more commercial side of people that need big files or doing massive prints or whatever it may be. So it's not stupid to think that you can have two systems, because they are horses for courses, and one does a job better than the other and vice versa. Obviously, for a lot of people listening, probably don't have thousands of dollars to spend on that. But it's not such a silly thing to say, well, I want a system for doing this and I want a system for doing that, because sometimes it's just what you need.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm not so much leaning towards, but certainly considering, is the second-hand camera market. There are Sony A7 IIIs starting to appear on eBay, Gumtree, these sort of places, and you're always hesitant because naturally you don't know what these cameras have done. Generally, they're out of warranty as well.
Yeah.
But in this day and age of reusing and recycling and all that sort of stuff, I'd actually wear it as a bit of a badge of honour to buy perhaps even a Sony A7 Mark II, which I saw there was one on eBay the other day for $800. Fantastic full frame camera. Doesn't quite have all the bells and whistles. The eye autofocus and that sort of stuff. But again, I'm not a portrait photographer, so something like that hasn't sort of escaped my mind either. Maybe getting myself if I do go down the path of Sony, for example, buying a second-hand body, but investing money in new glass so that I can keep doing that. Because as I say, the Nikon D5100 that I've been shooting with forever is literally 12 years old, and it's still fine.
Yeah, I think you make a good point there as well, which I always tell the people on workshops or when they're talking this kind of topic, is if you're going to spend money on a camera system, invest in glass. That's what makes your shots. If you get some really good glass with really good coatings or really fast aperture or whatever, that changes your work straight away. The body, go back to the old K1000 days, the body is just a light sealed box with a sensor. That's all it is, with a few little bits and pieces. Really it's the lens and the operator that makes the difference. So
that's exactly right. And you've touched on a very good point, and that is, in my opinion as well, buy the fastest lens you can afford. F2.8 is wonderful, and it gives you would be amazed how much more versatility it gives you, particularly because landscape photography quite often occurs in low light situations, and wanting to avoid having to boost ISO, for example, and just relying on pure optics to get the shot is a lot better. So, and again, that legacy where, for example, Canon EF lenses, L series EF lenses, there are lenses out there that are 10, 15 years old that have dropped 10% in value. They still hold their value really, really well. So
I think there's an 85 1.2 or an 85 1.4 or something. It goes up in value. It doesn't go down. It's just that good. So
there you go. So as my dog chimes in the background, he said buy Sony. Did he?
But by the way, we're not sponsored by Sony, Olympus, Nikon. We're not sponsored by anyone. But if Sony want to give Brendan a camera and you're listening,
hello, Mr. Sony.
We could work. Maybe we could work on that. Let's see if let's all tag Sony. Hashtag give Brendan a Sony.
Link in the description. Hashtag CompStomp.
CompStomp.
Right, now we had a few other things we're going to talk about. Of course, we're already at 48 minutes, something like that. So we will we can roll stuff over to next week. Of course we can. This is what this podcast is all about.
It's our show. We can do what we want.
Cam, I would like you to go ahead and plug the Sunrise Comp, please.
Yes, the Sunrise Comp that was just made out of nowhere. So we have a Sunrise competition going. You need to take a photo from the start of this month, so the 1st of August, up until the 20th of August. So you've only got, from when we recorded this, actually you're going to be... we're going to be due on the day we release this, isn't
Pretty much. So, so it's a bit of a moot point, I suppose, I'm mentioning it now, but I tell you what, we'll give you the next day as well. We'll give you the 21st.
We'll give him. Tell you what, we'll give him to the end of the weekend.
Hey, it's our competition. We can change the rules as we go.
T's and C's. So we'll give you to the end of the weekend, which will be the 22nd.
Yes.
So you got to the end of the 22nd. So it has to be a sunrise shot taken in the month of August this year. And what you can do, you can either post it directly to the Down South Photo Show Facebook page, or you can message us like most people have been doing, and we'll post it up there for you. The winner will get a signed 16 by 24 inch print of mine, shot on the Fuji. It'll be on a shot from the Fuji, so it's pretty good detail. And we'll announce the winner soon. We're going to do a live show to announce it, I think, aren't we? Is that the plan?
Yeah, so the next thing in the running sheet is, are we going to do another live show? We have been asked by a couple of people. The answer is absolutely. We've
been asked by lots of people to do it.
Yeah. We have been inundated by an email asking us if we're going to do the live show.
But it had a lot of words in it. Email,
it did have a lot of. We'll definitely be doing. We love doing the live show, so you will have a live show probably in early September. I would have thought something like that.
I'm thinking there's a lot of people still locked down at the moment.
Yes,
like a hell of a lot of people.
Yes.
Maybe a live show sooner rather than later.
Hello to all our friends in New Zealand. When this goes to air, you will be coming just out of your 3-day lockdown.
Yes,
Auckland is in a 7-day lockdown now as well. So. Look, hopefully in some tiny, really small way, we're able to fill in an hour of your day by talking crap about landscape photography.
I was going to drop a really bad sheep joke then, but I didn't.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
We want to keep
moving right along. Dear Cam. For those of you new to the show, every week we have a Dear Cam question that is emailed to us or messaged to us or courier pigeon to us or who knows to us. Smoke signals. It's a a question about photography for Cameron. We call the segment Dear Cam. This is this week's Dear Cam question. Dear Cam, after a previous episode's questions about RAW file editing, should I be shooting RAW all the time? What do I miss out on if I just shoot JPEG? That is from Beck in lockdown Melbourne. Hi, Beck.
Hi, Beck in lockdown Melbourne. And sorry, Beck, lockdown Melbourne.
Yeah.
Well, I think we had that question the other week that the person shooting RAW was asking about what sort of editing, if the RAW file looks really good straight out of camera, what other adjustments should they make? Look, I think if you're shooting landscapes, then shooting in RAW just gives you as much detail as possible and as much detail to work with when you bring it back into your computer. So shooting RAW and JPEG is not a bad idea as well. I sometimes set my camera up to do a RAW and a JPEG at the same time, and the reason I do that is because if I'm out traveling around or I'm on a workshop and I want to actually just quickly post a photo from what we're doing or something like that, it's a lot easier just to dump a JPEG off a camera through your phone app or something like that and upload it. So, but I generally won't edit a JPEG file, and the reason being is RAW will give you so much more detail. It captures everything, all the colors, all the tones, everything like that, where a JPEG compresses things down into a smaller file, which means you've got, I guess, less detail to start playing with. So a RAW file allows you to really play with lots of shadows, lots of highlights, color temperatures, color channels, sharpness, clarity, all those kind of things you can have a lot more of an effect on. So I would suggest, if you're not shooting in RAW at the moment, and this is something we do right off the bat at most workshops, is, okay, what's everyone shooting on? Is it JPEG or RAW? And we generally switch people into RAW straight away. So when you bring it back into your editing suite, it might look a bit flat and it might look a little bit uninteresting, but it allows you to have a lot more control over the editing and pull more detail and more effects out of that file. So I would say, if you're not shooting RAW at the moment, start switching it into RAW. And if you're a bit worried, switch it into JPEG and RAW, so it's doing both files, so you don't lose that safety net of having a JPEG that you might be used to. But shoot RAW. And then, if you need help editing, I've got some editing videos on my YouTube channel, Cam Blake Photography, or you could look online and there's plenty of tutorials about how to edit RAW files, and that should be able to help you. But I would say, if you're shooting landscapes and you're really loving it, it's best to shoot in RAW to give yourself the best canvas to start with.
Spot on.
Advice.
Absolutely spot on. Yep, I've got nothing more to add to that because you've covered it off beautifully.
Cool. Thanks, Beck.
Nice. Good question, Beck. Before we wrap up the podcast, a little bit of homework. Our episode on drones last week is going really well. Thanks for all the views, likes, comments, all that sort of stuff.
I used my drone yesterday.
Oh, nice. I've charged my batteries up on mine. It's as far as I've got, but I will fly it soon.
Right.
A bit of homework. there was a little bit of confusion over the height that you can fly your drone. It is 120 meters or 400 feet, and it is from below the drone. So basically, I think someone's commented, just imagine you've got a piece of string hanging from the bottom of your drone. If that piece of string has to exceed 120 meters, you are illegally flying your drone.
Yep.
So
exactly. That was a great bit of advice. So I apologise, I've forgotten their name who left the comment.
Yep. Sorry, I should have given you a heads up about that. But also, right. I think it's another good reminder when it comes to drones as well to brush up on the rules. We even stuff that up. So, but it also you go. Sorry, and the rules do change. And that's when you do the courses and stuff like that. They advise you a lot to actually go and make sure that you check the rules, because they do update them. It's like driving and all the legislation around everything else. Yes. Everything changes. So definitely. That's where the CASA app and the Can I Fly There app are very good, because they get updated regularly. So, so that was a bit of homework on that. Also, as was pointed out to me by Stan, who is a lovely customer of mine, who has been a customer of mine from day one at the Ocean Grove store.
G'day, Stan.
Stan is an avid photographer, brilliant photographer. Recently switched from Olympus to Sony.
Oh, no.
As just pure, that's what happened.
No, that's good.
By pure chance. And anyway, also owns the Mavic 2 Pro drone, and watched last week's episode and came in and told me off because the Point Lonsdale Lighthouse is a no-fly zone. I quickly
You're making lots of friends.
I quickly flat-batted that straight back to him and said, that photo was taken well before that rule came in place. So I was okay to take that photo for anyone else who's going to have a crack at me about it. But it has since been made a no-fly zone.
Yeah. So I think there's a fair chance that after this episode, this show will get banned. That comment about the 120 metre string, that was from Rob Van Elven. So thanks, Rob, for that question last time. That was
Thank you very
perfect.
much. That explains it quite well. I think it's time that we wrapped up the podcast. So a quick plug for my business, cameraandphoto.com.au. For anyone not in my area, people down in Tassie who are fans of cam and want to check out what I do, cameraandphoto.com.au. Jump on there, have a look. Got my image gallery up, which you can check out all the cool photos of my local area. There's lists all the different services we offer, and also all your printing options, including online printing. So cameraandphoto.com.au. Get down and have a look. Cameron.
Do it. Well, my business is Cam Blake Photography or tasphoto.com.au. You can look us up. I haven't got much going on lately. I've been a bit quiet this week. I went for a bit of a snow search yesterday and got a couple of nice shots, but it's been an interesting time with workshops and things like that. A lot of postponing and working around these lockdowns. But I've got lots of prints for sale, a couple of books for sale. I've got workshops next year that are still selling out, and we've still got a few spots for the ones that are going this year still. So go check it out. You can do camblakphotography.com.au or check us out on socials at camblakphotography. That's about it. It's a pretty boring week this week for me. I've just been hanging around watching everyone else get locked down.
Might be a boring week for you, but this has been a very entertaining podcast. So thank you very much, Cam, for your...
It's been I reckon it's been our most controversial, this one.
I fired up a bit, didn't I?
No, it's okay. As long as the person doesn't listen, I think we're fine. Oh. And as long as you stop illegally flying your drone around Whittlesea.
I know. No, my apologies. Sorry, Stan.
No.
It won't happen again. And he's just rapped that he's got a shout out. All right. That's it for the podcast. That's episode 11 in the can. We'll see you for episode 12 next week. Thank you, Cameron. See you all next week.
Mate. Thanks, guys. See you later.
See ya.